Helldiver. Chapter 12. Making our way to the... Is it an excavator? Some kind of heavy-duty vehicle. Definitely something that left a mark on Mr. Schofield, I would say, when it comes to when he made the mighty Callisto Protocol. And he added a sequence quite like this one coming up. And it's probably the best part of that game, I think, in spite of the game being a little disappointing for many people. This sequence is interesting as well, because this is quite a short chapter, but there's a lot you can do here. There's only, I think, 3 fights if you add them together. And this one is the second of the 3. And there's a handful of spawns, but I don't really know if you have to engage with them, because you can probably just skip them. But I'm definitely not looking to skip too many things if I can avoid it, especially when it starts getting good. And you know how I feel about the pack fights, because I'm a big fan of them. Just then, if I'd have shot him when he was climbing up, I'd have been able to put him down quicker. But because there's not been that many fights, I let him climb up so I could actually fight him rather than just execute him. And then this sequence here has got so many of the children, but they don't come in any kind of serious number to be a threat, and they don't come from multiple sides, which I think is kind of interesting. Because you think they would. Like, this could have been a really cool moment if they were spawning from behind me and jumping down like that guy tried to do. There could have been a lot of interesting sequences here that made this really intense, but instead it's just kind of... Isaac chills out and kills people leisurely one at a time in a nice little murder conga. And there is the power of the disembodied leg right there. Save some of that ammo if you need to. But the fight coming up on top of the machine is really, really intense. It's very loud, it's got a lot of things going on, it's got a couple of moments where you're just at the mercy of some lurker sniping you. So if you like the idea of dodging bullets, like this is some kind of Danmaku, you can have a lot of fun with that. It also has an interesting checkpoint that involves sticking you bang next to a puker who's behind you and he hits you the moment you load in. Which I showed that on my stream if you didn't catch the highlight. And it's a really bad checkpoint. But it's the closest I've seen to the remake thus far, so that's one of the things that I think Dead Space Remake got really right. Sticking necromorphs bang in front of you on bad checkpoints. But you don't see it too much, that's what makes it so interesting. Especially in Dead Space 1. Dead Space 1 has got surprisingly good checkpoints. Dead Space 2 is where some of the more dynamic stupidity turns up. But I suppose it's like anything, isn't it? If you play long enough and you get unlucky, you will discover something odd that transpires. As you miss the child jumping at you that you try to shoot immediately with the machining tool. And then we have one of the best sequences in the game. Got a couple of pacified looking pukers here, which is interesting. So the slasher climbs over with a double puker combo. This is a kind of... I think that this game needed a horde mode. If it had got a horde mode, it would have been absolutely exceptional. But it didn't, sadly. But if it did do horde mode, I think on top of one of these would have been a really good one. Because you stand your ground and you face what comes, whatever it might be. And it's a really interesting moment to see them climbing up over the railings and know that you don't have anywhere to go. Like, it's just you, your gun, and your ability to decimate the weak. And this sequence is actually a lot easier than you might think it is, especially with the generous checkpoints. And there's not too much fighting all considered. It could have been way worse. Like, can you imagine if they put a brute on this? Just dropped a brute in here? That would have been funny. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't get crazy with, like, a stalker with no legs. I'm surprised they didn't drop anything silly like that. Can you imagine if the walls had guardians and they were firing their things? Like, they could have gone really, really nuts here, but instead they went with the kind of the weaker slashers, puker, and lurker combo. Like, if there was leapers on this part, that would be something else. But you know, one thing I do like the idea of? I like the idea of the lurkers shooting at you while you're being attacked. I like the idea of using the lurkers to kill the necromorphs, but it's so difficult to do because you can't guarantee you're going to dodge that web of blades they fire. Like, just then. I got lucky then, you know, I got lucky just then. It looks cool, but it's not me really doing it. It's the game being like, here you go, here's an attack, and, you know, sometimes you make it look easy and sometimes you don't.